to a lot of youth in different cities that you stopped at. What's your take, because I think you've been early on this, on, 21 Savage had the Fuck the Streets movement that he kind of has been promoting these last...
I don't even fuck about that. I am the streets, I love the streets, I come from the streets. I ain't even know that pussy.
You just heard 21 Savage snap back after getting called out by the so-called Great Slime. And yeah, this whole situation is getting ugly fast. This beef is nowhere near done, and from how it's moving, it's only getting louder and messier from here. We're about to break down exactly how this spiraled and why the tension keeps climbing. Let's cut straight to it. This ain't just internet talk anymore. Things are escalating, and that's what makes this story serious. So how did we even get here? Buckle up, because this one got layers on layers. To really understand it, we gotta rewind and look at where 21 Savage been coming from lately.
Get your ass up, nigga. Stop saying my motherfucking name. Don't think, cause a nigga trying to change that. Man, y'all niggas sit down.
For a while now, 21 been pushing this whole leave the streets alone message. He's been traveling city to city, speaking to young people, telling them not to fall into the same traps he did. On the surface, that's solid. Nobody can knock someone trying to stop the cycle and save lives. But here's where it gets complicated. When you come from real street backgrounds, East Atlanta, Zone 6, and you start telling others how to move, not everybody is gonna take that lightly. Some people see it as preaching, others see it as switching up, and that's where feelings get involved. The truth is, 21 didn't just talk that life, he lived it. This isn't a made-up story. On his 21st birthday, he was caught in a real situation, got hit multiple times, and one of his close friends didn't survive. That moment shaped everything, even his name. It wasn't branding, it was remembrance. So when he talks about leaving the streets behind, it's coming from scars, not lectures. He's lost too many people, seen too much damage, and now he's trying to stop the same story from repeating. Back in 2013, when he was still deep in the mix, the losses kept piling up. He lost his brother to violence, then later lost his close friend Larry too. These weren't strangers. These were his day ones, people he grew up with, people he loved. Loss like that changes you permanently, and you can hear it in his early music. Tracks like No Heart and X weren't filtered or polished. As time passed, the money grew, the fame got bigger, and the losses kept stacking up for 21 Savage. And that's when his mindset really started shifting. He began seeing the bigger picture and realized he had a responsibility, especially to the younger kids who look up to him and copy his every move. This whole forget the streets movement didn't just appear out of thin air. It's been building quietly for years. It really started picking up steam.
Rapper King Von and his group were at Opium nightclub before making their way here to Monaco Hookah Lounge, then to the parking lot where chaos ensued.
Once 21 began putting serious work back into his Atlanta community, not just talking, but actually showing up. That's when he launched the 21 Savage bank account campaign, teaching financial basics to kids growing up with no guidance. Then came the Leading by Example Foundation, aimed at helping youth in underserved neighborhoods get real opportunities. This wasn't for show, this was hands-on work. But things shifted when he stopped moving in silence. He started speaking louder in interviews and online, making his message impossible to ignore. He wasn't sugarcoating it anymore. He was straight up telling young people that the street life isn't the move in the long run. Now, you gotta understand how that message hits differently depending on where it lands. In Atlanta, people mostly respected it. They watched his journey in real time, saw what he survived, and knew he earned the right to speak on it. But once he took that same message to other cities, Chicago, Louisiana, California, the reaction wasn't the same everywhere. Some folks appreciated it, especially older heads who already paid the price and lost everything. But younger dudes still active in the streets, they felt some type of way. To them, it sounded like he was brushing off their reality or downplaying what they're going through. And for anyone wondering, this situation didn't start from nowhere. 21 and B actually had history before all this. Back in 2019 and 2020, there was mutual respect, shared support, and no tension at all. They were showing love publicly, no smoke, no problems. At that point, they were both sitting at the top of the game, moving in their own lanes, but showing mutual respect. No competition, no direct shots, just two major names doing their thing. But there's another layer people can't ignore, and this is where the tension really starts brewing. When the whole Lil Durk and NBA YoungBoy situation was heating up, 21 was seen leaning closer to Durk's side. Even without direct words, that alone planted seeds of friction in the background. Let's slow this down, because this part matters. The Durk and YoungBoy conflict isn't just rap noise. It's one of the most serious situations in hip-hop right now. Real lives were lost, and everything escalated after King Von was killed in Atlanta, which turned the pressure all the way up. With 21 being from Atlanta and already cool with Durk, he was placed in an impossible spot. He never publicly dissed YoungBoy, never jumped on records, never made it loud, but small things were noticed. Being around Durk at certain moments, subtle social media support, and quiet alignment all sent signals, whether intentional or not. To YoungBoy and his camp, that could easily look like picking a side. So now you already have tension sitting under the surface, waiting for something to spark it. Then 21 starts pushing the "leave the streets alone" message publicly. And from YoungBoy's perspective, that can feel confusing. One moment you're seen supporting one side of a violent conflict, and the next you're telling everyone to walk away from the streets. Now, let's talk about where NBA YoungBoy is coming from, because context matters. He's only 25, but he's lived through more chaos than most people see in a lifetime. He's survived attacks, lost close friends, dealt with arrests, and been fighting serious cases for years. For him, the streets aren't something you just step away from overnight. There are open situations, real threats, and real loyalty ties still in play. So when someone says, "forget the streets," it can sound less like advice and more like they're brushing off his reality. From YoungBoy's point of view, it's easy to talk when you already made it out and don't have the same problems anymore. That's how it feels to him. And one thing about NBA YoungBoy, he's never been the type to soften his message or play polite for cameras. He always keeps it raw, always says exactly where he stands, no filters. That honesty is a big reason his fans ride for him heavy. So when YoungBoy gets asked about 21 Savage and the whole "leave the streets" movement in a recent interview, you can already feel the tension in the air. The interviewer brings it up respectfully, talking about how 21's been pushing this message early, trying to guide the youth and all that. But YoungBoy wasn't hearing it. He made it clear he didn't agree at all. He said straight up that the streets are who he is, where he comes from, and what shaped him. He wasn't trying to separate himself from that identity, and he wasn't pretending otherwise. When that moment hit, it felt heavy, because that wasn't just a difference of opinion. That sounded personal. It came off like a direct challenge to the whole movement itself, not just the idea behind it. And YoungBoy didn't stop there. He kept talking, saying people are confused about what's really being pushed. He explained that protecting yourself and standing your ground is still necessary, but at the same time, he made it crystal clear that he doesn't align with what 21 is promoting. Then came the line that really flipped the switch. He said there's a narrative being pushed right now, and he's pushing his own narrative too. That wasn't accidental wording. That was him making a statement. That line told everybody watching this wasn't just a casual disagreement. It was a clear line in the sand. At this point, it was clear. These two were fundamentally on opposite sides of the message being pushed. And the moment that interview dropped, the internet absolutely lost it. People started picking sides instantly. No hesitation, no middle ground. You had fans backing NBA YoungBoy, saying he was speaking his truth and that nobody has the right to tell someone else how to live their life. On the other side, people were riding hard for 21 Savage, saying he was genuinely trying to save lives and stop young people from repeating the same mistakes. Social media turned into a war zone overnight. Timelines were flooded with hot takes, arguments, and non-stop back and forth. One side was calling 21 fake positive and accusing him of switching up for optics. The other side was saying YoungBoy was pushing a dangerous mindset and keeping the cycle alive. It got toxic fast, like it always does. But what really made this situation blow up wasn't just the opinions, it was the timing. Because right when things seemed as messy as they could get, 21 Savage finally spoke up. Now this is where people had to pay close attention. 21 didn't say YoungBoy's name directly, but everyone knew what time it was. The streets caught it immediately. Here's how it went down. 21 jumped on social media visibly heated, frustration written all over him. He started venting about people throwing his name around and twisting his message about the streets. Officially, he was responding to comments from Pee-wee Longway, who had questioned his background earlier. But with that response dropping right after YoungBoy's interview, nobody believed it was just coincidence. Those earlier comments were small compared to the weight of what YoungBoy said. So when 21 snapped back, people instantly started connecting dots. He came out firm, telling people to stop speaking on his name and stop acting like growth means weakness. You could hear the frustration clearly. This wasn't someone chasing attention. This was someone trying to move forward and getting dragged from every direction for it. But then 21 really leaned into it, and this is where you could tell he wasn't talking to just one person anymore. The message widened, and the tone got way more serious. He started calling out people who still try to lecture him about the streets while living in the past. He basically said, if you're still walking around stuck in old habits, don't come preaching to him about street life. If you're grown, been chasing rap dreams since you were a teenager, and still circling the same block, you don't get to lecture him either. That alone made people start side-eyeing the whole situation. But then he said something that instantly made everybody stop scrolling. He reminded people that just because he's focused on growth now doesn't erase his past. He made it clear that his name didn't come from nowhere and that people shouldn't play with it, like it's just talk. That part wasn't for shock value, it was a reminder. Don't confuse positive change with weakness. Just because he's pushing a better message now doesn't mean he suddenly forgot where he came from or what he survived. Then 21 doubled down even harder. He warned people not to get too comfortable mentioning his name every day like it's free content. He made it clear that constant poking isn't harmless, and growth doesn't mean tolerance for disrespect. That right there felt like a clear line being drawn. The message was simple: improvement doesn't equal softness. You can evolve and still demand respect. But what really stood out was when 21 Savage explained why he feels so strongly about all of this. He said a lot of people talking loud about the streets haven't actually experienced enough loss to understand his mindset. He pointed out that being near street life isn't the same as living it yourself. Knowing people involved isn't the same as carrying the scars personally. And because of that disconnect, they can't grasp why someone who's truly lived it would want others to escape it. This is a key point that a lot of people completely overlook. There's a real difference between being from the streets and still being in the streets. There's also a big gap between knowing people who lived that life and actually carrying those scars yourself. And that's exactly what 21 Savage was calling out. When he said people haven't cried enough or lost enough, that wasn't trash talk. That was pain talking. That's the voice of someone who's buried friends, sat with grief, and watched lives disappear for real. That kind of loss changes how you see everything. He made it clear that not everyone has the right to speak on this topic. Some people talk loud, but they've never carried that weight themselves. And that's why he told them straight up to stick to rapping. Stay in your lane and make music. Because this conversation is heavier than image or lyrics. What he was really saying is that street politics come with consequences most people can't even imagine. And if you haven't lived that reality firsthand, you're not qualified to judge someone trying to escape it. Then things took an even sharper turn. 21 started calling out people who still claim street status, even though nobody's seen them in decades. He pointed out how some folks talk tough from far away, disconnected from the places they claim to represent. That remote location line wasn't random. That was a shot at internet tough talk, people acting active online while being nowhere near the reality they describe. It exposed a lot of fake pressure and made people uncomfortable. And then he touched on something deeper that often gets ignored. How can someone from a completely different state tell another person who they are or how they should move? That question hit hard because it's been an issue in hip-hop forever. 21 comes from Atlanta, while NBA YoungBoy comes from Baton Rouge. Two different cities, two different environments, different rules, different pressures. But one thing stays the same everywhere. Violence hurts, loss hurts, and pain doesn't care about geography. That's where 21 believes his message stands above locations. Death is death, grief is grief, and the cycle looks the same no matter the city. And that's why he feels the message applies everywhere, not just where he's from. This is where we gotta zoom out and really look at what this situation represents for hip-hop as a whole. This isn't just two rappers trading opinions. This is a deeper clash inside the culture itself. It's the long-standing tension between staying authentic and evolving as a human being. Hip-hop has always put authenticity on a pedestal. Being real matters more than almost anything else. So when someone like 21 Savage, who built his entire reputation on raw street truth, starts pushing a message that sounds different, it creates confusion for some people. Fans start asking tough questions. Is he still real? Is this growth or just image control? Is he switching up, or is he genuinely trying to help people avoid the same pain he went through? That uncertainty is what fuels so much of the backlash. On the other side, you have artists like NBA YoungBoy who refuse to soften their message no matter how big they get. There's a level of authenticity in staying exactly who you are, regardless of fame or money. And for a lot of fans, that consistency means everything. Now, let's address the big question people keep throwing around. Is 21 being hypocritical? Critics point out that he still makes street-heavy music. He still references violence in certain songs. He still knows and associates with people who are active. And he was seen leaning in the Lil Durk versus YoungBoy situation, which came from real street conflict. So how does that line up with saying, leave the streets behind? That's where 21's explanation matters. He made it clear he's not claiming perfection. He said he's trying to change his life, trying to stop the chaos, and trying to be part of the solution. That word trying is everything. He's not pretending the past never happened. He's admitting growth is messy and uncomfortable. That's how real life works. Change doesn't flip on overnight. But not everyone accepts gray areas. Some people want it black and white. Either you're street or you're not. Pick one. Growth confuses people who want clear labels. And here's the wild part in all of this. While 21 and YoungBoy go back and forth, while fans argue nonstop online, the real tragedy keeps happening quietly in the background. Young kids in underserved neighborhoods are still losing their lives every single day. This is the part that keeps getting lost in all the noise around 21 Savage and his message. No matter how you feel about the messenger, the core of what he's saying is about saving lives. It's about offering young people another path instead of a lifestyle that statistically ends in prison or an early grave. So when 21 says, leave the streets behind, he's really talking about rejecting a system that keeps funneling young black and brown kids into violence, incarceration, and tragedy. That's the bigger picture behind his words, whether people agree with how he delivers it or not. But here's where NBA YoungBoy and others who think like him make a valid point too. It's a lot easier to talk about walking away once you've already made it out. Once you've got money, security, and the ability to move your family somewhere safer. What about the people who don't have those options yet? What about the kids still stuck in the same neighborhoods with no clear exit? For them, the streets aren't always a choice. Sometimes it's survival. That's what YoungBoy really means when he says the streets are part of who he is. He's not praising violence. He's talking about loyalty to where he comes from, love for his people, and refusing to act like he's above it all just because fame changed his circumstances. And that's where this whole situation gets frustrating. There should be a middle ground here, but neither side seems ready to meet in it. 21 could acknowledge that his message can feel disconnected from people still living that reality, while still standing firm that reducing violence matters. At the same time, YoungBoy could recognize that even if he's proud of his roots, the cycle of violence isn't sustainable forever, and that trying to break it doesn't mean abandoning your people. But in today's hip-hop climate, everything turns into sides and camps. There's no room for nuance, no space for holding two truths at the same time. Either you're with one or against the other. So where does that leave things now? Right now, we're stuck in a pause. 21 said what he had to say. YoungBoy said what he had to say. And now everybody's watching closely to see whether this cools off. The real danger here is this turning into more than just words. We've seen this movie too many times in hip-hop. Talking turns into action, and action turns into tragedy. And the craziest irony of all would be a situation that started with 21 Savage trying to reduce street violence, somehow creating even more of it. Now, there is another possible outcome. This could fade out just as fast as it popped off. Neither side really gains anything by pushing this further. They both got money, careers, families, and way too much to lose to let this spiral out of control. The truth is, hip-hop actually needs both perspectives. We need voices like 21 who are willing to stand up and say, we gotta do better. And we also need voices like NBA YoungBoy, who refuse to sugarcoat the harsh reality people are still living every day. The problem starts when those perspectives turn into opposition instead of balance. When it becomes a beef instead of a conversation, nothing positive comes from it. And honestly, that's where hip-hop is stuck right now, We're arguing over whether telling people to stop destroying each other is even a good thing. That shows how deep this mindset really runs. What is clear is that 21 stood firm on his message. He made it known he's not backing down, no matter who feels a way about it. At the same time, YoungBoy made it just as clear that he's not changing for anybody and he's going to represent his reality the way he sees fit. Only time will tell how this plays out. This could escalate, or they could learn how to coexist with completely different philosophies. But one thing can't be denied. The conversation is happening now, and that matters. Both sides are speaking from truth. 21 is talking from the perspective of someone who made it out and doesn't want others to relive the pain he survived. YoungBoy is speaking from the mindset of someone still navigating that environment and refusing to detach from where he comes from. Maybe instead of arguing over who's right, the real question should be, how do we take the best from both viewpoints and actually make a difference? How do you honor where you come from while still aiming for something better? Now I want to hear from you. Is 21 right for pushing the "leave the streets behind" message? Or is YoungBoy right that nobody can tell another man how to live? Do you think this situation is going to get worse? Or do they eventually squash it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like, subscribe, and share button, and make sure you stay locked in, because we're covering all the hip-hop drama as it unfolds. This story is far from over. See you on the next one.